Hey, it's Rich, the Louisiana Hobby Guy. Today we're going to be talking about a feature that is never used, never discussed, don't see any videos on it anywhere, but something that I use quite often, especially on my business card tokens that I give out. I have these little business card coins made out of wood that I hand out to people. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a hidden feature in Lightburn that nobody uses that will take your laser engraving to the next level. So stay right there. We're about to get started. All right, so here we are in Lightburn, and you see on the screen I've got a picture of the coin that I give out, or at least the front face. The back side doesn't matter. The back side is just engraving with my website, telephone number, contact information. It's the front side that matters. And this, I want to tell you, is just regular plywood, even though that looks like it's some form of exotic wood. And maybe you can't see it in this picture because it converted it to black and white. But let me show you in real life what these coins look like. And this is it right here. You see how beautiful this coin is engraved? Now this is a relief fill. I'm taking away the background and leaving the foreground. And I've got these delicate letters all the way around. And this would be very, very hard to do and finish unless you do it the right way. So today I'm going to show you how you can make something like this. It doesn't have to be this coin. Anything in a relief fill. A relief fill is really a really nice look when it comes to wood engraving. And I don't think it gets any better than this. I think this is, some of the nicest work that I do is on my giveaway coins, and not really, because I do a lot of relief fill on other projects. But I'm going to show you today how I make this from scratch using a little known feature in Lightburn that very few people know how to use, and no one seems to talk about it. So let's get started with this right now. And I'm going to show you how I do this. So here is, now I'm not going to bring out my production run of this because I do these 50 at a time. Okay, so I'm not going to bring out that template, in other words. We're going to do this from scratch. Now, the key difference that you're going to see here is that these letters are standing proud here. They're not touched by the laser. Only the background is engraved. Well, when you look at the original graphic that I did here, you'll see that the black is what's going to get engraved. So first thing we're going to do is fix that, and we're going to reverse this. And how do we reverse it? Very simple. We just add another layer to it. So I'm going to put this into line mode up here. Let's get rid of the photograph. And now in line mode, what I'm going to do is grab it, ungroup it up here at the top, and I'm just going to select the outermost layer here, just the outermost layer. Okay. Now if I drag from the left, some people have been saying I've been leaving out a lot of the little tips lately, especially the new people. Dragging from the left will select anything that it touches in any direction, you see. Dragging from the right will only select everything that is encompassed within that square. So now you see the outside circle is not completely encompassed inside the square. Well, it won't select the outside circle. So that's just a little tip. So we're going to drag from the right to the left and just select the outside circle. Then we're going to come over here to the offset tool. We're going to click on that, and that's good, just the way it is, 0.01. That's a good offset. That's enough to do what we want to do. And by creating that offset now, if I come into fill mode, you'll see that we have now set the letters not to be touched. Only the background is going to be engraved. And if you're wondering how I see the preview without clicking the preview button, that's up here. If you come to Window, the default setting is going to be wireless, wireframe. Okay, we're going to do that again. The default setting is going to be wireframe coarse or wireframe smooth. You'll be in one of these modes. If you set it to filled coarse or filled smooth, then what will happen is you'll see a preview on your screen. Okay, so now with that tongue twister out of the way, now we've got exactly what we want. But this is not the trick. So let's find out what the trick really is. Oops, look at that. Okay, I'm gonna grab everything now. I don't even know why I have to move it, but I'm moving it to the middle. So now you very rarely see me work in current position. I'm using the, this is the X tool, D1. So I'm finishing up my review on this, and that's why I'm using that laser today. So with this laser, it's got the little crosshair on it, makes it easy to line up your project. So I put it in current position, top left, and that's where the origin is going to be. And this is the job origin, by the way. This is not the machine origin, so don't get confused with that. The machine origin is something that's completely different. If you're not familiar with origins, I do have a video on it. You can go on my channel and just search for origin. You'll find it. So now the job origin, where this job will start, is right here. And if I come over here, you'll see I have it set up in that spot right there. So it's going to go this way, this way, this way, this way. All right, and that's that. So now, well, what are we going to do to this? Well, let me show you. We're going to come in here, and we're going to engrave it. We're going to engrave it at 4,000 speed, 70 power. That all looks good. Fill. Okay. I've turned overscanning off, and I don't want to do it in a 0-degree angle. In other words, left and right. And I don't want to do it in a 90-degree angle going up and down. I want to do it in both. And you know, in time gone by before Lightburn, normally what you do is you just, you know, make a copy of the image on top of it, do one in 0 and do the other in 90, or however you want it to do it. Make several copies and just burn them all together. But in Lightburn, you have crosshatch over here. So if we turn on crosshatch, you'll see what happens over here. It's going to give it that really nice look wood grain, where you're going to go first. It's going to scan left and right, then it's going to scan up and down, and you're going to get a really nice crosshatch there. Now I've got my line interval at 0.1. Now Lightburn, not Lightburn, excuse me, X Tool says they have a 0.08 focal point on their machine, which means that it can burn at about 318 DPI. Okay, I am not so sure about that because they use this little flip down focal tool, and I have yet to run my ramp test on it, so I don't know how accurate that focus is. And I'm not going to depend on the manufacturer's accuracy, because most of them are off. You know, you've seen in my other videos that when they say that they're 2 millimeters, it's actually 3. So I'm not so sure about that. So I'm going to change that to 0.1 instead, just to be safe. 254, what most people call DPI. So we're going to put it at 254 to be safe, just because I don't trust their focal. And that's all there is to it. This is the whole trick. So, you know, you can skip the video now if you don't want to stick around. But I mean, that is the whole trick in getting this beautiful, beautiful engraving on a piece of cheap plywood to make it look like it's an exotic wood. It's just by doing that. And like I said earlier, I know a lot of people run 2 passes, but nobody ever talks about the crosshatch in Lightburn, and I haven't seen anyone doing any videos on it. And it is something that I do use quite frequently on these relief cuts, let's go ahead and run this. And I have a couple more things to talk about after we're done with this as well. So stick around. You know, don't back out now. You've already come this far. So yeah, you know the trick now, but let's see how that works. So I'm going to say okay to that, and I'm going to put this back in line mode for a minute, because not only do we want to engrave it, we also want to cut it out of the piece of wood so that we get you know, our little coin out of this. Okay, so I'm going to zoom way in here. I'm going to zoom all the way in, and you're going to see that I can select that outer line right there. Okay, so that outer line, I'm going to come down here and put on the red layer, and I'm going to switch that layer to line. So now we have a cut on the outside. Everything on the inside stays the same. I'll put that back in fill, and the only difference is that outside line is now a cut, and it's going to cut it out of the wood. All right, so now we're ready to go. I'm going to put a little cut in here, and then I'm going to come back with the Hyperlapse video, because I've got to get my I've got to open up my cabinet, turn on my air extractor, you know, all that kind of stuff. But really from this point, I just have to set my cuts and layers, and I think it's already set. 4070 is perfect with the crosshatch. And by the way, you can run this twice if you wanted to get more depth. Now I'm getting almost 1 millimeter of depth at this setting, but you can run it twice if you want to. You can do 2 passes on here. That would give you even more depth. For this demonstration, we're just going to run one. One is usually all I run. 1 millimeter of depth is pretty much all I want, and that's fine. And on the cut, the only thing here is we need to change this. And I do know that on this particular wood that X-Tool sent me to do the demonstrations with, I do know that the speed needs to be 100 and the power needs to be 100, because I've already done some other tests on it, and at 120 it's kind of hard to, and maybe I'll put this at 105. So it didn't pass the test at the 120, 100 using my atom stack library, which does cut 3 millimeter ply, but that's beside the point. We're going to do speed 105, power 100. We're going to do 1 pass. If you wanted to get less of a burnt edge, you know, you could do speed 200 and then just do 2 or 3 passes on it. Same thing. Same thing's going to happen. I don't worry about the burnt edge. I think I wipe it with a little water. It stains it, and it gives it some really nice contrast. So I happen to like it. On the engraving, we're going to do 4070. That's perfect. So we've got everything set. Overscanning is off. Now this is some really small letters. If you look up here in the width and height, we've got this at 4 inches. We're going to bring this down to 2. So we're going to put 2 and press enter. And now, oops, I didn't select them all. So let's select everything, and then let's bring it down to 2. And now we've got what we need. That's perfect. So we've got my standard 2-inch coin, and if we come up to preview, you can get an idea of how this is going to work. I will show you. You can see it right there. Let me turn off the traversal moves and hit play, and you'll see it's going to scan left to right is going to be the first pass on this, and then it's going to come back and scan right to left. And you can see this just like you're seeing it here. You can see it on the coin, the way it enhances the wood coming back on that second pass. And if you wanted to, if you did 2 passes on this, that means that it would scan it 4 times. That would even lower the depth even further. Now, here is the final trick. I'm leaving this for the end because I know some people have already left. So for those of you that are sticking around, I'm going to show you the final trick where we're going to make this come out awesome, where the letters are going to be crisp and clear. And that is, we're going to go to fill and line. We're not going to do fill. We're going to do fill and line. And now you see a new tab popped up over here, line after fill. If we click on that, I think the default speed on this is something like 6,000. You don't want that. We're doing these tiny, tiny little letters. So 400 is about good, and actually 25. I think I do around 28 on this. You can play with this and find out. But you want to lower that speed down on the smaller letters. On the larger letters, you can go up to 1,000, 1,200. But these tiny, tiny letters that are only about 4 millimeters high, we don't want to go any higher than 400 on this line after it's all filled. So there's the real trick. That's the defining point of getting these crisp, clean letters out of this burn. So we're going to do one pass on that as well. So now we've got everything set. We've got our crosshatch over here, and we've got our line after fill. So I'm glad you all stuck around, because you would have missed that trick. And there's still more to come later. So don't go anywhere. I'm going to bring up the Hyperlapse video right now, and we can discuss that as it's burning, as it goes. And I'm going to make show you some things that I've been talking about. I'm going to point those out in the video. So let's switch over to that and get started with the engrave and the cut. All right, so there were a couple of mistakes that I made when I started the burn that I have to go back and fix. And we're doing this live, and I'm glad that you watched it to this point, because there were a couple of mistakes that I made. The first mistake was that I didn't create a separate layer for the fill-in line and lower the power on that. And really, that's very simple. All I did was, this is the original one that I had here, and I did forget to offset the outside, so the letters weren't standing proud. So that's one mistake. But the second thing that I didn't do was create this extra layer right here. And to do that is very simple. All I did was click on the original layer, the black layer, and I pressed Control and the letter D to duplicate it, and then I put it on the blue layer. That's all I did. And then I set the properties to 2040. This is the one that does the crosshatch, okay? And the power has to be low. And I couldn't figure this out, why it didn't come out right in the last burn. So I had to actually open my template and look at the template, and there I discovered the crosshatch doing 2 passes has to be at a much lower power, or else you burn through the first layer of the plywood. So normally I don't do these on plywood. I do these on regular hobby wood that's not layered. So that one did burn through the layers. So I'm going to try it again where we've got it here. Let me get rid of this one. And so now we've got the black layer, which is the one below here. The black layer will be the first one to engrave. The blue layer will be the next one to do the engrave and the crosshatch at a lower power. And then the cut, well, I had to lower it even more, because the speed, it's just not cutting through this plywood. So let's go ahead and put that back there and restart this job now with the layers done properly this time. And this is the problem of doing these videos consecutively live in order. I'm not going to edit out these mistakes and go back and redo it. I'm going to show you the mistakes, because I make the mistakes too. And I had just forgotten about that one setting there, doing that crosshatch and lowering the power on it so that it does not burn all the way through that layer. And like I said, I normally don't use plywood, so I'm not really afraid of that. So now I've got 70 power on the first one, 40 power on the second one. So now we're actually doing 3 different engravings. This first one we're going to do at a 0 scan, going back and forth. And then the second one we're going to do with the crosshatch, and then come back and cut it out. All right, so let's get that one rolling and get this done right. So I wanted to put a break in this video here in the time lapse, and let me unscrew this from here. I'm sorry if I'm going to be shaking this camera around, because I want to show you close up what's happening to the wood. So let's see if I can get in here, and if you can see how it's carving out that wood grain. Do you see the difference from the top and the bottom? The top is burned and the bottom looks completely different. Can you see that? Let me try it from the other side. Maybe you get a clearer picture from over here. See how the top is burned and the bottom is getting that wood grain look? There is the difference by doing the crosshatch. You only get to see it for a second, but the top is black and the bottom is a completely different wood grain look. So I'm going to let this finish out, and then I'm going to come back and show you how I finish this, how I finish it off. And of course, this is the line after cut, line after fill, excuse me. So you can see what it's doing now. It's going around and making a distinct line around everything, around all of the engravings. And you'll see it going around the letters. So it's really, if you look at this side, look at that, as compared to down here. It's putting a deep line around the letters, which when I run the sandpaper over this, which I will be doing in just a moment, you'll see at how beautiful the letters stand out. Alright, now after 2 cutting passes, it does not drop out, as you can see. Did a really poor job cutting. Focused, as they say. I'm going to force it out. But there is the almost final product. So now the next thing that I do is I take my sander, okay? I don't turn it on. I put this on the sander and I go and I move in a circular fashion like that, because I'm very afraid of the small letters being broken by the sander. And this is an oscillating sander, so it sort of jumps up and down a little bit, and I'm afraid of it breaking those letters. And you can see how nicely sanded that came out. That looks pretty good, just like that. Just going to give it just a little bit more. And I used the 3-finger method here. Put pressure in 3 different places, and I just go around in a circle like that. And now I've got a really nice sand on that. Let me blow it off. And I got my dirty finger on there, but there is the final product. And I could sand it a little bit more to get it a little whiter, to get the letters a little whiter. But you can see the depth. See how the letters are standing up proud like that? And I probably will give this just a little bit more of a sand. And then what I do on the edges, I don't sand the edges off. I just wet the edge. Let's see if I can get that to focus. So what I do is wet that edge, and that black will stain on there, and it'll give it a really nice look. But look at the relief cut, how absolutely beautiful that came out, looking like a completely different piece of wood. And you know, that was the goal of this video, is to get that completely different look in the wood, and I think we achieved it. All right, so we're done with the coin. Here's the final product. Came out just like the first one, except you can see this is the one that I just did. Nothing on the back. Edges are rough. I sanded them down a little bit. So we got exactly what what we were looking for there after a few mistakes. But I went a little bit further, and I went ahead and took another graphic, and I just did one pass, just a regular burn like everybody else would do, and this is it right here. Then I went ahead and repeated it. I actually did them both at the same time, and I did it with the fill-in line right there. So there you can see the two side by side. A big difference when you go to fill-in line from just regular fill. So I went one step further, just to, and these things are so grimy. I'm so, look how bad the edges are on these. This, I had to do 3 passes for 3mm wood with the X tool. Wow, it really is not my favorite laser, I can tell you that much. So I went one step further, and I brought in, and let me show you the graphic here real quick. I brought in this bird, and you can see these two birds are exactly the same, okay? Same exact graphic. I duplicated, put them on 2 different layers. Here are the layers, same speed, same power. When I come up in here, you'll see that I did 3070 on both of them, okay? Both of them with 254 DPI, all right? The only difference was I did one in a 90 degree, the blue one, which usually comes out better than the 0 degree. But still, they looked exactly the same until until it came back and did the line after fill. And I didn't want to cut this one out. You can see how nasty everything is. I even had to wash off this board just to handle it. So I didn't want to cut this one out. I just left it on the board. But there's the result. So the one on your left is with the line after fill. The one on the right is just a regular burn. Now notice at the bottom, I did do the very bottom of the feathers on that one in the crosshatch, and I stopped it just so that I could show you that it's not just the crosshatch that's doing anything there. So you'll see it darkened it up a little bit, and so would a second pass. But the thing to really look at here is that line after fill. And you can clearly see the definition that stands out head and shoulders over the graphic on your right. So big difference in getting really nice looking vector graphics. And for you people that are doing like cutting boards and things like that, you know, experiment with this technique, because you're going to start using it every day. You're going to start using that line after fill on most of your work, which I already do, and I have been for a long time. I just, for some reason, I don't show it in the videos. But today, after getting that feedback from that coin from the show the other day, it just dawned on me that, you know, I've never done a video on this, and I've never explained it in a video before. So here's that video today. So let's just recap really quickly. So what you want to do is set up your graphic. Now, what I really like to do, what I always do on my coins, is I duplicate the layer, set it on a different layer, and then I duplicate the layer again and set that one on a different layer. And I always do the crosshatch last. It's sort of like on a fiber laser where you do a a sweeping fill pass at the end to shine up the metal. It's very similar to that. On that first layer, I do a 0 degree regular scan on the first layer. Then the second layer, I usually do a 90 degree scan. And on the third layer is where I do the crosshatch, which every single pass that it makes changes the color of the wood. And you might want to watch this. You might be happy with 1, 2, 3. If you're using a solid piece of wood and not layered plywood, because you don't want to go through that first layer of plywood. You might want to do 5 or 6 passes on a nice piece if you really need to get some depth. And always put the cut on the last layer. But that's all I did, was change all I did was change the layers. Normally, like I said, I'll run 3 layers. The last layer will be the crosshatch, and will also have the line after fill. So those 2 things that are super important to making this come out like it does, like it's really a piece of exotic wood, is doing those things last. So I do that line after fill and crosshatch on the very last layer before the cut, and it comes out absolutely beautiful every time. That's really about it. I hope you stuck around for the whole video, because things changed all through it, and I made mistakes, and hey, that's part of watching my channel, is seeing all of the mistakes. So I hope you can appreciate that, but hopefully it helps you to avoid making those same mistakes. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video today as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. And as always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.